Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the Vato speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
Mommy and Troy and E-Bags, when they came through, they holler like, what up, comrade? Grimy niggas, they love to get gully. Summertime still had on black gloves and stuff. Mommy and Troy and E-Bags, when they came through, they holler like, what up, comrade? Grimy niggas, they love to get gully. Summertime still had on black gloves and stuff. Mommy and Troy and E-Bags, when they came through, they holler like, what up, comrade? Grimy niggas. They love to get gully. Summertime still had on black gloves and stuff. 4 niggas that I know personally in Queens that wasn't scared of Preem. 50, E-Money Bags, Homo, and Big Nose Troy. So like Queens, you had them 3 niggas between Big Nose Troy, Homo, E-Money. Them niggas that terrorized the whole thing.
7 had well-known hits with Ja Rule and Ashanti. He told me to meet him at the Crack House, a studio owned by Irv Gotti and Ja Rule. When I arrived, I saw Irv Gotti and a couple of his Murder Inc. artists, Cadillac Ty and Black Child. Irv brought me into the studio, where 7 played me some beats. I got a call from E-Money Bags, so I went into the hallway to talk to him. When I told Bags that I was at Irv's studio, he said, "Tell that nigga Irv that E-Money Bags said what up. He know me." I told Irv, and his face instantly changed, like he was nervous all of a sudden. What's that about, I wonder.
Prodigy just got out, and, you know, he's making his rounds with the media, and it came out that he had a few things to say, and he actually claims that you and Irv were set up by Cadillac Talk. Do you have
this guy in his book, you know, it's real cute, you know, it's real funny, his little book, you know, that he's talking about all of these situations that I'm sure he has nothing to do with or knows anything really about. But you know, we call it the Ghetto Gazette. You know, the word travels through the streets, you hear this, you hear that. You know, Caddy's one of my brothers, man, and I'm not even thinking about what he's talking about in his book. Good luck to him with his book, I hope he does well for him.
I said, yo, let me ask you a question. I said, that shit you wrote in the book was real? He said, yeah.
And you about the particular,
Nobody knows what you're talking about except
the Cadillac Talk.
Just FYI.
Yeah.
Y'all want to keep it like that?
Prodigy wrote a book. Prodigy wrote a book, and he said,
I know the book, but I don't know the passage.
And he's saying that the Cadillac Talk like gave up the address to the studio or some shit like that, right?
He let niggas know where we was at.
Right.
And it was crazy because that night that the bullshit happened, after it happened, we was always like, how the fuck these niggas knew where we was at? Because I believe it was my birthday and we was bouncing around from club to club. So for them to catch us that night.
I'm forgetting Lefty and Jazz, Pretty Tony and Lance, Head Lou, Mel's son, Troy, and E-Money Bags. Figured I'd give y'all a daily scripture from the Ghetto Quran. Fuck is the business. The shade's Popalot. We in Queens with it. Salute the almighty MOBB. This here is the Gunslinger edition. Now today I'm going to try my absolute best to tell y'all a story that's long overdue of a person that when they was walking on the streets of Queens, who by all accounts was one of the most feared guys walking throughout the borough. But what made this person different was not their willingness to bust their gun. And though they had a willingness, but it was the time and the era that this person represented. Now, the person that I'm speaking about is going to be a guy by the name of Troy, Big Nose Troy Singleton. Now, in the limited information that you will find about Troy, you would get a glimpse of how feared he was through the stories and the articles, with them painting the picture of a man that seems like he had the ability to cause terror at will. The media will report that he was only 27 at the time of his death in 1995, so that will put his birth somewhere around the late 1960s. So with that being the case, just like every kid growing up in Queens in and around that time, I'm sure he would hear the horror stories and see the destruction left behind by one of the most notorious drug gangs in the history of drug gangs, the Supreme Team, that would be headed by Kenneth Supreme McGriff. And with Kenneth Supreme McGriff being about 10 years older than Troy, by the time Troy was around 19 or 20, which by that time Kenneth Supreme McGriff would have already been arrested following a joint state and federal investigation, a case that he would eventually plead guilty to 2 years later, pretty much agreeing with the government that he was running a continuing criminal enterprise. But like I said earlier, Troy, like his right-hand man, Eric E. Moneybag Smith, was in a sense part of this new guard that really didn't give a fuck what happened the decade before them. So in the case where a lot of people would be like, oh nah, that's such and such that did such and such, Troy and E Moneybags was like, fuck him. And there would be a series of circumstances with them two that history would show that they were the Supreme Team's biggest ops. Now, a lot of us know the situation surrounding E Moneybags and Supreme that was highlighted in Prodigy's book over a $1,000 payment in a tagged car that would eventually lead to the death of beloved Supreme Team member Black Just. But very recently, a situation has come into play involving Troy, Big Nose Troy Singleton, and allegedly James Bimmy Anthony, also a very notable member of the Supreme Team. Now, it's always been widely speculated that Big Nose Troy's vengeance against the Supreme Team was over a very notable member of the group appearing on Big Nose Troy's paperwork for the double murder of Pierre Mitchell and Jamal Adams that would occur on July 24th in 1995 in Baisley Pond Park in Jamaica, Queens. And though this information is just surfacing now, it's been around for forever, or at least since 2010, when it was spoken on by author Ethan Brown in the book Queens Reign Supreme. In the book, writing about the death of Big Nose Troy, he would write, Singleton was allegedly whacked for killing two dudes during a basketball game at Baisley Park Houses, Preem's home turf, in July of 1995. He allegedly murdered Pierre Mitchell and Jamal Adams, going on to write that Troy would be sent to prison for that murder, where a prominent person from the Supreme Team's group would appear on his paperwork. Now, it's said that Troy would send the paperwork home, allegedly to the late head of Black Hand, Charles Chaz Williams. After the paperwork would hit the streets, it said that the prosecution would offer him a plea deal to avoid the prominent member from the Supreme Team having to testify for that second-degree murder charge that Big Nose Troy was facing. Now, even though the individual didn't testify against Troy and his accomplice in that double murder at Baisley Park, it was said that Troy vowed to terrorize the Supreme Team at any chance he got. And it seems like that's exactly what he did. In the book I spoke about earlier, they will also speak about a situation to where not long before he was killed, he would end up essentially stalking some of Supreme's dudes outside of the Universal offices, where he would, quote, bitch slap them up Broadway. Now, I know some of y'all haven't been in New York. Just take the two busiest streets you ever been on and combine them. Now you're on Broadway. Now, if that wasn't enough, it was also a situation to where he allegedly ran down on Ja Rule's manager, a guy by the name of Ron Gutter Robinson, and allegedly smacked him around some. So in a situation where it seems like Troy and E Moneybags definitely was employing the art of war, it's almost like they looked at Murder Inc. as Supreme's golden goose, and they was attacking that every chance that they got. Which takes me back to what I spoke about earlier, and even that Tony Yayo interview with DJ Vlad, where he spoke about people in Queens that didn't have any fear for Supreme, mentioning Big Nose Troy, E Moneybags, and even 50 Cent, all of whom I would consider kind of a new guard that really didn't care what went on before they got on the scene, with evidence of this littered throughout 50 Cent's career with the people he would find himself into it with: Supreme, Jimmy Henchman, World Hardy. Now, with Big Nose Troy being dangerous and I'm sure an elusive target, the Supreme team would actually employ the services of Brooklyn hitman Aaron eBay Granton. According to documents at Supreme's trial, it would say that he would put $25,000 on the head of Big Nose Troy, as well as a former associate of his, Green Eyes Born, and they would eventually catch up with Big Nose Troy 6 years after the war started on October the 28th, 2001, where he would be shot execution style outside of a night spot called the Club Vanwit on Liberty Avenue in South Jamaica. Now, with Troy and his young gun partner E-Money Bag's propensity to bust their guns, they will always be known as two of the most dangerous niggas to not only come out of Queens, but out of New York City. Now, y'all make sure y'all hit the red bell and subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real Trill Spill shit is dropping. Y'all head downstairs, run that comment box up. Let me know where I haven't been, what stories I need to tell, what I got wrong, what gangsters I haven't got with yet. All of that, y'all tapping directly Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Until the next time, y'all know the verdict. Shades Popalot. Salute the almighty mob.